Hello everyone, this is HuskyStarcraft here, and I am back with some more StarCraft action. This time it is actually going to be a random ladder game. I guess it's not so random, judging by the players, but it is not from the GSPA. Instead, I decided to cast a game that I was able to spot on WhiteRa stream a little bit, and then I also brought up BeastyQT stream at the same time, and that's of course the two players that are playing right now, and I was able to watch from both their first-person perspectives what they were doing throughout the game. It was quite an experience. Unfortunately, I had to leave halfway through the game, so I didn't get to see the end of it, so we are going to learn together exactly what happened. Now, I do want to mention WhiteRa in the bottom right side, probably my favorite Protoss player of all time. I used to have different Protoss players who are my favorite, but WhiteRa really is one of the most manner players there is. When he does interviews in English, I just want to pinch his little cheeks. He is great. If you guys aren't a fan of WhiteRa, I am sorry. You are absolutely missing out. I don't think there's one person who doesn't like WhiteRa. He is just such a manner player, and he's like 30 years old. He's married, lives in the Ukraine, just plays StarCraft all day like a total boss, and I absolutely love the guy. Anyways, bottom right side is WhiteRa. His opponent is BeastyQT, and I thought it was kind of weird because I actually ran into a fan a couple of days prior, and he was saying, hey, do you know BeastyQT? I'm from the same country that he is. And it was just totally random because then that same day I was watching BeastyQT play. So I was like, you know what? This game was just meant to be cast by me. All the signs were sent down from the heavens, and so I'm going to go ahead and cast this. Now, I do have to mention really quickly that BeastyQT is not actually a Zerg player. Yes, I know he's playing Zerg right here, but he also, this is one cool thing that he does, is sometimes he will off-race and play a different race. He normally plays Terran, but he decided to off-race a little bit, and so he's going to be playing Zerg in this game. So it's always interesting going against an off-race Zerg, or an off-race any race player, someone who's not in their complete comfort zone, but someone who could try things that other Zerg players may not try. And so we will see exactly what BeastyQT has planned. The map is going to be Tal'Darim Altar. Now, I do want to mention really quickly, this was played, I believe, right before... No, it was actually played after. Let's double check just to make sure. Yeah, this was played after the patch came out. Right here, this one especially is the best one to show it on. There used to be that little gap right here. You guys remember where you could hop down and then hop back up? It was like a little canyon right here. That is now completely gone. I believe you can blink from here to here, but you can't jump up or down with Reapers, and even blinking in there, you have to chain queue them, and that takes a lot of time. So they definitely changed the layout of this map. So that's something to keep in mind when playing it. Don't try and rely on Reapers, because Reapers, man, their jetpacks are not as good as they should be to jump across something like this. So that does change a lot of things that in this map. It really changes where you need defense, because you don't need to put any defense here anymore. You can just focus on the left side where units can still jump up here. And one thing about this map, though, is that is the only area that Reapers can jump inside your main and things like that. Same with Colossus, Blink Stalkers. It'd be the easiest to go over there. And that does change the map a lot. It kind of prevents bad layouts on your side of the map, like, or on your side of the base, because you don't have to worry about having buildings right here from siege tanks and all that. Anyways, I'm just saying the map has changed, so pay attention to that moving forward. Now, we do have WhiteRa going for the early expand. Already has his Nexus up and running. And look at this, he's actually rallying his workers over here rather than transferring them. This is something that's very interesting, because the thing about transferring over... Oh, here's a super early third. Is why we're going to spot it? Yes, he is. The thing about transferring all your workers is, say you grab half these workers and you're like, all right, I'm going to drag them and drop them right here. The thing about it is that you lose all the mining up front when you do that. So your income is heavily hindered, but then it does get back up right to where it was as soon as they get here. But if you rally your newest probes over here, it's still going to be the same amount of workers that you have transferred over here. It's still going to be the same amount of lost mining time. But the important thing is that you don't lose that mining time right away. Instead of, like, it's like if you had a loan from your parents. You can either pay it back all at once, and hopefully your parents are nice and don't charge you interest, or you can pay it back in chunks. And that's kind of exactly how this is. Now, WhiteRa doing something that I love doing as Zerg, or as Protoss. This is something that you absolutely should do against an early third base, and that is get these cannons. Now the creep is going to spot it. The cannons are nearly completed. Production tab. BeastyQT does not have any attacking units. He is most likely going to lose this hatchery. I can't imagine him holding on to this unless he decides to make a lot of Zerglings right now. but I don't even think that's worth it. Really, all he's going to get out of this is a couple of larvae. He will end up losing that hatchery, and this is exactly a good way to punish an early expanding Zerg. Whoa, a Stalker just books it on in here. Oh my god, WhiteRa has kahunas of steel running through here with the Scouting Stalker. This Stalker might actually make it all the way back home, unless, no, he's deciding to start attacking a couple of drones. Isn't going to get that one, and it does look like the Stalker will be taken out by a couple of Lings, I would assume, unless this is just a WhiteRa Stalker, and he'll be able to make it all the way back home. I'm kind of curious, is he actually going to make it? No, he's not. He's not, right? I don't know if that Stalker's going to make it or not, but I'll keep him selected so we can see. We do have a Stargate on the way. The Stalker beginning to regenerate his HP, or at least his shield, since he has been out of combat for 5 seconds. This is hilarious. I'm pretty sure the Stalker just made the rounds an entire Zerg base in the early game and is able to make it back out. So that is having a good read by WhiteRa. Now, if you're wondering, how did he know to do that? Well, the early third base did prevent the Zerglings from being created, as he got that so early, and on top of that, if he gets a base that early, he's going to be making drones rather than Zerglings. So BeastyQT gave up a little bit of map presence, and against a player like WhiteRa, he is going to take advantage of that. Now, we do have one Spore Crawler at the expansion. The positioning of this is pretty darn good. Spire on the way right now for BeastyQT as well. Whoa! I just realized ridiculously early fleet bacon. Someone ordered some breakfast because the fleet bacon has arrived. Is he going to go for a mothership already? I do have the production tab open. I don't see a mothership. Could it be an early carrier? I'm actually not sure what to expect here. Is he going to get a mothership? Because he's hovering at around 400, 400 that he could easily use for a mothership. Now, yep, there it is. He's got to do it. Leave it to WhiteRa, getting an early mothership versus BeastyQT's off-race Zerg. I'm assuming he's doing that just because he was able to kill the expansion. But the interesting thing, this is just something to keep in mind if you're a Protoss player attempting to do this. He invested 300 resources on the cannons and 100 resources on the pylon. That is 400 resources. That is more than a hatchery. Now, getting a third base for a Zerg player is absolutely vital in this matchup, so I still think it was worth it. But in a lot of situations, just be careful because you may actually come out behind, especially if you let your cannons finish and your Zerg player spots the cannons and cancels his hatchery and puts it, say, up here or somewhere else. Then you can actually come out way behind. Those cannons are worthless, just kind of sitting there. We do have 12 Mutalisks on the way right now for BeastyQT, and with WhiteRa taking an early third, this could be difficult for him to hold on to. He does have one Phoenix out on the field, which is most likely going to be used for lots of scouting. Really not going to be able to use that for a lot of defense or anything like that. And one poor Zergling, literally his job was given to him. All right, cleaned several tons of debris, as well as with these annoying bushes here that you have to weed eater away. Now, we do have the Mutalisk attempting to harass, and was able to get a couple of kills there, but you can see WhiteRa able to transfer away those probes, keeps him alive. He's most likely going to start setting down some cannons. His mothership has been revealed if those Mutalisks were paying attention to that Nexus, and right now you can see worker supply 48 to 57. That's actually favoring our Protoss player, I would say, at this point in the game. And here is the mothership. That is such an early mothership, 11 minutes into the game. That does mean that our Zerg player will be forced to use Overseers. One interesting thing about late game PvZ is if you can get a mothership, like right now these Mutalisks cannot kill this cannon, but if you can get a mothership and then use High Templar to feed back the Overseers, Zerg has no way of spotting them. And Overseers are so easy to feed back because really a lot of Zerg players don't use their energy on the Overseers that much, because for the most part in most games the energy of an Overseer really isn't game changing. I mean, yes, there are things like good scouting and all of that that you can use for an Overseer. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that as Zerg players usually focus on something else. Those look like the Phoenix, and some Stalkers going to be moving down here. No blink research is done. 5 random Zealots, kind of making a Zealot train over there. Ooh, no, flying into the main base. Looks like he's going to lose a lot of probes here. He is focusing with the Mutas. Not always actually the best choice, because the splash damage can take out so many. Is this mothership going to go down? It does look like with the little micro, it may be able to. Does suck in a couple of the Mutalisks. You got to remember, though, that when units pop out of here, they are immune to damage for just a little bit. Really not able to get his Stalkers over on that side like he would like to. Is BeastyQT going to save these Mutas in time? They're going to take some damage. Here they are, and only no Mutalisks go down. Looks like this Phoenix could take out one of them. Nope. Nope, there he goes. He does get the one shot off to take that one out. These probes having to transfer away. Mass Muta is so frustrating to go against this Protoss at this stage of the game. You can see WhiteRa scrambling around. He did force a cancel on this hatchery. That was not a completed hatchery. So while he did delay that, he may end up losing these Zealots. No, way too many Zealots to take on with that many Zerglings. Now we do have 1-1 done for our Protoss player. Charge is done as well. BeastyQT does have the +1 melee attacks. Continuing with Mutalisk, look at how many he has. He should have around 16. No, 23 is going to be able to kill off these Zealots as well. This is a great victory for him. 5 free Zealot kills, keeping in mind that the Zealots did lock down the expansion. Does have a Zergling up here running back and forth, but WhiteRa has been able, even though he lost those Zealots, he was able to keep the Zerg player on an equal amount of bases, which is so vital in this matchup. If you can do that as a Protoss player, you are definitely not behind. You can usually play this out fairly easily, but at this point, with so many mutas for map control, so many speedlings, it's going to be up to WhiteRa. I don't really think he can do too much harassment here, because if he tries some of his special tactics with his Warp Prism drop, it's going to be tough because of the mutas. BeastyQT continuing to harass. The Blink is going to save those. +2 attack is on the way for both players, and more Beetlisks, more Zerglings as well. We haven't seen any Infestors, so right now all of the gas is actually going towards the Mutalisks. We have 2 more hatcheries in the main base being constructed. It looks like he's having a little bit of difficulty getting up additional hatcheries as he's trying to expand once again. Mutalisk continuing to harass here. One more Blink could be devastating. Not off of cooldown quite yet though, so not going to be able to eliminate this army. Does Blink on the low ground. This is a big risk. A huge maneuver out of WhiteRa, as if there was a Zergling trap right there, these Stalkers would have been dead, but he does use his Phoenix to get back inside the main. That's one of the things about Blink, is you have to be careful using it offensively. And no, I don't mean swearing at your opponent while you're using it, but if you blink around like that, then it can easily be taken out by Zerglings, because Blink, while the cooldown is short, it is not short enough when you're completely surrounded. But right now, BeastyQT making 9 drones, continuing heavy drone production. Not sure where these overlords are going, but they have a long trip ahead of them. 66 drones to 80 probes. BeastyQT really needs to start making a lot more drones here. It does look like the Zealot hacking away for a while. That was the Zealot from before, trying to just do the one job he was programmed to do, and that is kill hatcheries. Wasn't able to do it that time, though, and the Zerglings doing a ring around the assimilator. So at this point, BeastyQT making 26 drones. I was going to say, well, he's going to have to make a big wave of drones. So this guy go from 68 to many, many more, or 66 to many, many more than that, as he does have 26 drones on the way. I believe that these units are going to be transferring over to that expansion already. The cannons on the left side getting cleaned up at the same time. It looks like BeastyQT's Mutalisk just being so frustrating here. At this stage of the game, it's really tough for a Protoss player to prevent this, but they can lessen their losses a lot by getting things like Archons, which is exactly what we see WhiteRa doing. The cannons on the left side do finally get cleaned up. Supplies are looking 142 to 153, so BeastyQT supply not as far ahead as he would like. It's going to be a lot lower if he loses all these mutas, continuing to keep them alive. But the thing about Blizzard maps, and well, any map on the Blizzard ladder, is that there is a lot of space to fly these Mutalisks around. So, like right here, there's a lot of dead space, and that is something that BeastyQT is really utilizing to his advantage, keeping them alive, keeping them low on HP, and that's exactly what you have to do, because if you just let those Mutalisks fly around the center of the map, they're gonna get caught out of position by those Archons, by those Stalkers, and that is not a good situation to be in, because Mutalisks are so good at harassment, probably one of the best harassment units that Zerg has in their arsenal. Zergling's very good as well, but they aren't necessarily the best in a straight-up fight. So if you have all these Mutalisks attacking all these Stalkers directly with a couple Archons mixed in, those Mutas are going to be worthless. I mean, it's basically, you might as well donate all of those resources to a Zerg charity, because they're not going to be used for anything at all. Now, it does look like WhiteRa holding his third base fairly well. May end up losing a Mothership. Is he going to lose his Mothership who's been sitting around? Yes, he will. Down goes the Mothership. Mutalisks almost fly into that vortex, but instead decide, hey, killing off probes is a much better thing to do, and is going to go for these cannons. So we'll buy WhiteRa a little bit of time to get back inside the main base. Can he blink down here? He does. Not going to get a lot of kills. These Mutalisks have paid for themselves, so they're going to fly out of here. He does get 1 kill, which is not a lot, considering that he needs to be focusing on putting a little bit of map presence on the field now. He did end up losing that Mama ship, which is so frustrating. Losing a lot of probes, but, I mean, to be honest, with this production of 3 probes at a time, continuing Mothership production, which you could easily Chrono Boost out of there at any time, that's going to be a pretty good spot for him. Now, this is so smart from BeastyQT. I love Zerg players who do this when I'm casting games. I hate Zerg players who do this on ladder, simply because it is so darn good and so darn smart. When you start getting close to supply blocked, which really he isn't, but he does have a lot of money, so he doesn't need his drones as much, just make a ton of spine crawlers. Like, there's literally no reason not to. They are so good versus Protoss. And even if, hear me out, even if they have Colossus that can outrange them, the Colossus alone take forever to kill these off, and then that gives you time to get the correct units. It gives you time to inject more larvas to have more defense ready. It also gives you time to throw away a couple of units at the units attacking the wall, so that you can just remake them, and it just kind of solidifies your spot in the game. The positioning of this is outstanding. I really like this from BeastyQT. Is just now getting the Glial Reconstitution upgrade for his roaches. We do have a major engagement on the right side. Lots of Mutalisks, lots of Zerglings attempting to lock this down. It does look like this expansion will fall, although I don't know if WhiteRa is going to be able to save it in time. He does have quite a few Stalkers over here. The Nexus is absolutely going to fall, but at the same time, WhiteRa split up his army and is going to be attacking the top left side. There's 2 bases up here, so he may be getting a 2-for-1, as if we're shopping at Walmart or something extremely boring like that, but not boring when you are WhiteRa. Look how many Archons are in here. With the +2 attack completed, +3 is on the way. BeastyQT's really got the fight to hold this out. The force fields preventing the Zerglings from getting any sort of surround. However, they were able to escape, and the drones have revealed the expansion by attempting to run up there with those minerals. WhiteRa going to be the victor today, at least in those battles so far, as he was able to take out 2 expansions for the cost of his own. Now, he did lose a lot in that engagement, but BeastyQT, I think, suffered more losses than WhiteRa. This is a lot of Stalkers. We need to start seeing Fungal Roast being used. And look at these infestors. They are full on HP. Now, for BeastyQT, this can go one of 2 ways. One is that he can Fungal Growth this entire army to death, or 2, he will eat feedbacks and all these units will die, because look at this. Infestors have 90 HP, and they have 200 energy, so a feedback, very easy to kill that. For those of you who don't know, feedback it takes away all of the energy on a unit, and then it does damage equal to the amount of energy drained. So if they are high on energy, they will indeed die in one shot. And knowing WhiteRa, I wouldn't be surprised. This Phoenix, I cannot believe, is still alive. Has been scouting the Zerg base, running from Mutalisk after Mutalisk, and still managed to keep that alive. So right now, both armies are maxed out. Our Zerg player isn't completely maxed, but he's pretty darn close. Army supplies virtually identical. So who's going to have the better unit composition? We do have 10 Mutalisks, 22 Roaches, 16 Infestors. I think a couple of Hydras in there would be much more effective. But we're about to see. There goes one Fungal Growth on this army. You got to remember that Stalkers cannot blink away when they're Fungal Growth. Neural Parasite on the Mothership, going to be mind controlling it. It does look like BeastyQT is going to be in an okay spot. There is still an Archon or 2 left here, though, and it looks like the Mutalisk taking a lot of damage from that Archon. Does BeastyQT have enough to focus down this Mothership? There's no detection here for BeastyQT, and there it goes down, falling at the very last second. The Fungal Growth could have been much better. Still a lot of energy on these units. It does look like BeastyQT will have to retreat, but not before getting some good Fungals on these Zealots. Getting one more right there. Can he continue chaining it? Yes, he does. And one last one will clean up a lot of these Zealots. So production tab going to be so vital here, as 22 Roaches are on the way. Now, we do see the supplies for BeastyQT shooting up into the lead, but you got to remember that, again, a lot of that is those Roaches, and those can be effective, but at many stages in the late game, Roaches are not the best choice, just because Immortals, which we can see right here, can easily be produced to counter those. Void Rays, Carriers, even another Mothership being produced. So these are all options that a Protoss player has against late game Roach. So you got to make sure not to get too many Roaches on the field. Rather go for the higher tech things like Infestors. We see the Ultralisk. Was there an Ultralisk Cavern? Did it finish? It is right here, yes. And a couple of changes from the recent patch. Ultralisks do build faster, and the Immortal does have +1 range. So if WhiteRa gets a good read here and keeps producing these, here we go. Range of 6. Another battle going to be commencing over here. Range of 6 on Stalkers as well. So it makes them much easier to micro. There's one feedback. Are we going to see more? No. The army of BeastyQT is just not as good as it needs to be right now, as just a Roaches with a couple of Infestors. That's very, very powerful in the mid game versus Protoss. But when you are 26 minutes into the game, you need something else. Whether it's Broodlords, a lot of Infestors, even the Ultralisk. Now, this is a good way to secure a Watchtower. Just bring over all your Spine Crawlers, which don't actually activate the Watchtower, but I wonder if Spine Crawlers can see, or do they just blindly waddle around where they're told? Because, I mean, they're a building, but they have legs. And I've never seen a building with legs. But right now, it does look like BeastyQT continuing his creep spread. Does have a nice expansion up here in the top center. WhiteRa's army is at 177 overall supply, though, while BeastyQT only has 166 supply. Looking at the units tab, we do have 62 drones versus 75 probes. And it does look like a nice grab here. Free Dark Templar taken out with that fungal growth. For those of you who do not know, fungal growth does remove Dark Templar out of stealth. Removes anything out of stealth if it is unfortunate enough to be hit by it. And that was why the roaches were able to clean that one up quite easily. 2 armor completed for our Zerg, 2 range as well. But what does WhiteRa have brewing? He does have 3 attack, 1 armor, 1 shields. Which, you gotta remember, that is Protoss units. Both benefit from the melee attack. The creep spread for BeastyQT continuing to look really good here as he's spreading it all the way towards his opponent's base. And he could even benefit from spreading it along here as well. That would help him get those nice surrounds that a Zerg player always tries to get. And at this point in the game, it does look like WhiteRa continuing to expand here, taking his 5th base in the top right side, which if he can lock this down with enough cannons, that does mean that the top right base can be taken as well. We do have DTs moving out now for WhiteRa to try and lock down expansions. Has been able to lock down or at least prevent that expansion from going down. So far he's been able to deny BeastyQT from expanding too heavily. And BeastyQT going to be in a spot where he just might have too many roaches. There we go. There's the cancel. You can see another patch change. 225 minerals returned to BeastyQT for doing that. As when you cancel it, you do get the majority of your money back, but you still lose a little bit in the process. And we do have a random Void Ray with an Observer. Could use this to clean up these creep tumors. Now, if you're wondering why doesn't WhiteRa just run his entire army over here to clean up these creep tumors, it becomes a situation where the Zerg player can see your entire army if you do that. But right now he's just out of vision, and he doesn't know that WhiteRa is going to be right there. So the Void Ray raking in some kills. Does look like WhiteRa decides to move out, but doesn't have an Observer here to clean these creep tumors. So he will be able to push this creep back a little bit, though, with this one Void Ray. And the Observer going to be spotting that quite easily. So right now, both players maxed out once again. 134 supply to 122 in the army size. So this could go either way, but I feel like mass roach is not the best idea. We do have multiple Stargates being thrown down by WhiteRa. Is he going to be going for some carrier tech? We'll get some free drone kills here. This isn't that big of a deal because that wasn't all the drones. That was only a handful. But it does tell WhiteRa, hey, there is an expansion over on the left side. It does look like the mothership trying to take on some corruptors. Never a good idea. Is going to go ahead and back out there. The Broodlords have finally completed for BeastyQT, and he does have a lot of infestors. A very, very gas-heavy army here right now. +2 range done for the Zerg air units. It does look like the mothership may go down once again, but a Vortex going to prevent that mothership from dying. And there's just really no way for BeastyQT to engage us. He is sending up his infestors, but they are getting feedback, laying down on top of those infestors. It does look like a couple storms going down as well. BeastyQT eats almost the entire storm. The hatchery getting annihilated immediately. Can BeastyQT kill this army? It's going to be tough running up this ramp. WhiteRa wisely abusing the high ground advantage, but the Corruptors are chasing the Mothership, and the Mothership does take additional damage from the Corruptors. Corruption also being used, which means that Mothership will be sniped immediately as it does go down. Not only taking additional damage versus Massive, but also the Corruption ability. There we go. You can see that target also takes 20% more damage. So it does look like WhiteRa now is awkwardly kind of stuck in the top left side, but he was able to kill that expansion. We do have an expansion still mining up in the top center. Not many drones have been able to make it alive there, though. And we do have 5 Ultralisks and a carrier on the way. There it is. Boom. Don't get to see those very often. But it does look like WhiteRa deciding to transition into carriers to try and take his opponent by surprise. Now, this is something that can be good. You just have to be very, very careful for Corruptors, as it can easily take them out. And a major engagement on the left side. Can BeastyQT hang on to this? The hatchery going down so fast versus these Archons with a +3 attack and the Immortals in there as well. But it does look like BeastyQT has a really good spot with these Broodlords. Got to be able to kill these Zealots, no problem. But the question is can he kill these much gas-heavier units like the Archons? Does look like you got a fungal growth off there, so they will be able to take these out. It looks like Broodling sprinting across before they die, but lots of feedbacks on every single infestor that he can hit. And it does look like only a couple infestors remain, but the fungal growths are going to be too much, and this army will be crushed. Both supplies are nearly even. It does look like BeastyQT, though, is going to shoot ahead with 70 Zerglings being produced at a time. Oh, this poor little High Templar is apparently going to survive. So that High Templar lives to storm another day. It does look like the Broodlord's moving into position to clean these up, but really there's just not a whole lot left after losing that army. And yeah, WhiteRa is going to get taken out. It looks like these Broodlords can easily clean this up. Really no threat of them dying. But the carrier production has continued, and we do have +2 attack now on the way, and working on the Graviton Catapult, which is always something fun to say, something you almost never see being utilized. The Dark Templar continuing to patrol back and forth. WhiteRa's upgrades are 3, 2, 1, which is pretty darn good. Working on a 3rd shield upgrade, which benefits his Archons greatly, as well as air units. That's one nice thing about the Archon upgrade. Oh man, these probes walking a dangerous line here. It looks like the Zerglings decide not to kill them off, but they will be transferring up instead to the top right expansion. And we do have a Dark Templar continuing to move out. One Void Ray taking on these units, wisely going for the Overseer. Could also go for the Infestors as well. And he will go for a Queen. I don't know who's going to win this. Maybe one Fungal will kill off this Void Ray. But this Void Ray did get 16 kills, so your death is not in vain. Don't tell him that, though, as he was able to deny those creep tumors. And this Dark Templar, once again, proving to be so frustrating to deal with. And the rally point actually has him run down here. There goes that drone. That expansion's not happening. And he's even microing the DT to chase down that drone. So WhiteRa denying expansion after expansion, even forcing the cancel on this one with these few units that he had wisely hidden behind the mineral patch. So both players are just playing so smart. Here's the carrier has arrived. And that is indeed a lot of carriers. More carriers than you would normally expect to see. And the Ultras, though, do have that 4 armor. Could benefit from one more after getting the chitinous plating. It does look like the army has been split in half a little bit. The Zerg player, though, is losing a lot of his creep tumors. The carriers have been revealed. And WhiteRa, is he going to be able to save this? The Ultra is getting clumped up on each other. Looks like BeastyQT is going to back out. No decides to commit here. A little bit of indecision, but he will be able to do a lot of damage here. Lots of storms, but Ultra's pretty good at tanking the damage, but not very good at killing things on the high ground. Feedbacks on the Overseers, able to snipe them. And BeastyQT now is going to have to run away. 179 supply to 197, but our Zerg player can easily recreate that. Losing Ultras, though, is never a comfortable situation for a Zerg player, as they are now on the field in much lesser numbers than what we had saw previously, but that does mean a lot of his gas has been saved. But the problem for BeastyQT is right now, not only losing this expansion, but he just doesn't have that much money because he keeps losing his armies, and he hasn't been able to expand. Now, this expansion has been his saving grace. That's why he can continue to produce. But once he gets maxed out right now, he's not really going to have a lot left to work with, as, I mean, WhiteRa just has so many mining bases at this point. The top right is completely beginning on the mining. I mean, look at this. This expansion, boom, boom, boom. So WhiteRa going to be in a pretty good spot there, especially if he kills off this Expo, which he will. These units have now burrowed. Now, is there an observer here to spot it? Yes, there is. This observer sees everything. Got to be able to kill these off, but BeastyQT going to attempt to intercept. Looks like he will get 2 free carrier kills, but no, the Corruptors, there we go. They need to focus down the carrier rather than the Interceptors. This is a lot of Corruptors. Could potentially take out this army. Is BeastyQT got to go for it? This is the kind of comeback he needs in a battle. But it does look like WhiteRa just barely able to get in a defensive position. Can we see some fungal growth going down? That would be huge. No, Neural Parasite would be even bigger. He could use Mass Recall on his army if he wanted. No, he decides to go for the Vortex. It does look like the Vortex is going to suck up every Protoss unit. Down goes the Mothership. Focus firing down there. And is he going to be able to get the nice round here? These Archons going to try and save him. It does look like WhiteRa's positioning actually pretty good now, as the Ultras weren't right up against that. Instead, they were attacking the Archons. And kind of hard to see who's going to win this. It looks like all the carriers for sure will go down, but can BeastyQT clean up on the ground? Yes, he can. He is able to turn the tide of this game into his favor, but again, the problem is that he just does not have the income. He is currently mining out of nowhere, is also going to be losing this base if he's not able to reinforce that. Long-distance mining with every single drone. Needs to keep this hatchery alive. He cannot afford to reproduce that, and at this point, while the battle was in BeastyQT's favor, the game overall is in WhiteRa's favor. Unless he loses both of these expansions, then we might be on an even footing, but I just don't think BeastyQT is going to have what it takes. He needs to get all these drones mining at this expansion to try and get his income back up to where it needs to be. He has brought over the Broodlords, though, to start attacking what little forces remain at this location, but with a nice blink up here, WhiteRa almost able to take out a couple of Broodlords, was able to get one. The Ultras waiting, just chomping at the bit, literally, to kill this expansion. Can he lock it down, though? It looks like he will be able to for now. But does WhiteRa have enough to answer for this? Those Zealots are not real. Those are not the Zealots you are looking for, WhiteRa, as you need to be focusing on saving your expansion. The Nexus has gone down. Another expansion up here could easily go down, but WhiteRa now moving in with a handful, I would say more than a handful, I would say a plethora of Zealots. But is there enough Spinecrawler defense here? We're going to have to wait and see as this expansion is going down. WhiteRa really needs to cause some damage here. Some transfuse by this Queen, able to save a couple of the Spinecrawlers. Boom, again, needs to transfuse once more if possible. And that is going to be just enough to hold on for BeastyQT. At the same time, though, WhiteRa has secured an expansion down here that has continued to be mining from. And he does have a lot of cannons here for defense, even putting him in a location that cannot get surrounded by Zerglings. So BeastyQT, though, able to kill 2 expansions. And that is huge. That's exactly what we need to do. Once again, losing his own. So huge base trading is going on. DCT is going to get taken out as well. So it does look like BeastyQT able to hang on for now. But does he have enough Broodlords to take out the Expo? Right now he does have 6 with a... Nope, there's the other one. That's the 6th one right there, which he should be able to use to take this out. But WhiteRa, playing so smart, has this expansion nearly mined out and is expanding to all corners of the map. He knows his opponent doesn't have that much fast units, mostly Ultras and the Broodlords, which just are not that good at taking out Expos long distance. And now we do see, like, this expansion will go down, but again, WhiteRa able to secure that one as well. Storms being used on these Broodlords, which isn't going to do that much damage. We might as well use our energy for something. This High Templar does have 200 energy, but will get taken out. I wonder what it feels like as a High Templar to have max energy. Does it feel different? Like, are you, when you storm a lot, do you get really tired? Do you have to go rest for a while? Or does it feel absolutely the same? But right now, it does look like massive amounts of Void Rays got to be moving in for WhiteRa. It does look like he will be able to lock this down quite easily and prevent the expansion from going down. Wow. But Corruptors are pretty good versus all Protoss air units, especially with Corruption being used. But is it going to be enough Corruptors here to take out this army? He is going up against vastly superior upgraded Protoss forces. It looks like that may be it. The entire army of BeastyQT has been eliminated. The Nexus being destroyed, though, at the last second. These Ultras just have nowhere to run versus these Void Rays. And there is going to be the good game. 35 supply to 128 for WhiteRa, especially with WhiteRa getting these expansions up and running. But I have got to hand it to BeastyQT, able to give WhiteRa a run for his money while he was off racing. Ouch, that does not look very comfortable. And there's a cool special effect around it. It's like an orb. Is it the gas exploding outwards from the Overseer? That's kind of cool. But yeah, man, BeastyQT being a total beast and was able to, again, give WhiteRa a run for his money, nearly defeating the Ukrainian Protoss, but not today, as WhiteRa able to take this game here on Tal'Darim Altar. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I just wanted to give some love to BeastyQT as well as WhiteRa. And, of course, I'll see you guys next time.